everyone, welcome back to your final away say of the season, looking ahead to what is essentially a pointless game, but we'll all be watching it anyway, as Rafa's Mags, might be Rafa's Mags for the last time, travelling to Craven Cottage to face already relegated Fulham. Joining me this week is Matt from Fulham Focus. Thanks for coming on, Matt.
You're welcome. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you.
Good. Hasn't been good for a lot of your fans this season. Obviously, you went down, it was kind of confirmed a couple of weeks ago. If you had to pinpoint it, what would you say has gone wrong this season? Because you've obviously gone down first time of asking.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a better question is what's gone right. That'd be quicker to answer. It's been an appalling season, really. I think the recruitment process is part of the problem. So we came up from the Championship last season and we did really well. We went on this long unbeaten run and it looked like we had this really, really good team. And we did for that level, but that team was made up of a lot of loan players. So we had the likes of Piers on Target, Mitrovic from you guys, Ollie Norwood, Ojo from Liverpool, just rattling them off the top of my head. But a lot of these players were never going to be good enough to play in the Premier League. So they were all sent back with the exception of Mitrovic, who we ended up signing. And when you do that to a team, when you completely decimate a team when you've been promoted, then you're almost ripping up the story and starting again. And that's what we ended up doing. We had to start all over again. We had no team spirit based on that, and we had to create a new team. And we left it right until the end of the deadline, the end of the transfer window. And we signed about 5 or 6 players a couple of days before the season started, many of whom were straight in the team on the opening day of the season. So it was a real risk doing that. And it's one that didn't pay off, unfortunately, for us. And now the owner's son, Tony Khan, who is director of football and responsible for recruitment, has come in for a lot of flack for it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Fulham's one of those teams where you seem to keep buying loads of players where it sort of piqued your attention a bit and said, oh, he's a good player, he's a good player. And it reminded me of when QPR were just buying loads of sort of decent players. But obviously, if you don't build a team, then that's it at the end of the day. And when we came up the second time, when we came up under Rafa, we had that core of players that had won the league, and we didn't really, although we should have built on it more, which everyone knows, but we did have that core of players that are still in the team now, like Lascelles and Ritchie. And I think that's been the main reason for our kind of, I say success, but you know what I mean.
Sustainability, though, at least you managed to stick it out. You look at Wolves as well; they kept the same team that they had last season, and they were already built for the Premier League last season anyway. So they didn't have a great deal of work to do. They just built on top of it, whereas we ripped it up and started again. And Cardiff, to an extent as well, all right, they just weren't good enough, but they kept the core of their team together and they made a better fist of it than we did.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about recruitment as well, and you mentioned Mitrovic. He obviously came from Newcastle. He was a divisive player when he was here because I think most fans realised he was talented and had the ability to be a really, really good striker. But some people said his heart wasn't in it. Some people said his head went too much and he got angry and had bad discipline. I personally didn't think he had the all-round game that Rafa wants in a striker. What's Fulham fans made of him? I assume that you like him because he obviously got you promoted, but what's the feeling around him at the minute?
Yeah, he's a very popular player at Fulham. I think it was made quite clear that he wasn't a Rafa Benitez type of player, and he was never going to have a future under Benitez at Newcastle. But when we got him on deadline day, I was really excited last season, and he was kind of what the missing part of the puzzle, if you like, because we played well and we played a good possession game, but we hadn't really been getting the results. And I think in November last season, we were 17th. Then we strung a couple of results together at the end of the year. And as soon as he was in the team, I mean, in actual fact, that's a little bit harsh because we did start our unbeaten run just before Christmas last season. And I think Mitro joined at the end of January. So we were already, getting some results, but him coming in, he just seemed to score every week. And, you know, the kind of approach that he had to the game, he was very heart on the sleeve. He seemed to really enjoy it at Fulham and he was scoring goals. So he was always going to be popular. And then the end of the season came and it was a bit, you know, will he or won't he sign? I think there was a discrepancy over the fee, wasn't there? We were after him all summer, but Newcastle wanted a bit more money. And I think you guys went to a pre-season training camp. Was it in Portugal? And he flew out with the team, got there, and then the fee was agreed, so he had to fly straight back again.
Yeah.
But he got off to a flyer this season. He scored at Spurs away, and then he got a couple at home to Burnley in August, and it looked like everything was going to be rosy, but the service dried up for him, and anything that he was sticking in the net, he was almost creating for himself. He was left really isolated at times, and yeah, the defence was awful at Craven Cottage and has been for most of the season, and he was kind of left to fend for himself up front. So I think he's got 11 or 12 goals this season, but at one point I thought we could be looking at 20 plus.
Yeah, do you think he's going to stay then for next season?
Well, I don't know. The thing is, he signed a long-term contract last summer. I think, was it 4 or 5 years he signed for? And whatever we paid for him, 25 million, 30 million, including add-ons maybe. So it's going to take quite a lot of money to break that contract. And, probably looking at like 40, 50 million, especially given the owners that we've got and how stubborn they are. Is anybody going to part with that sort of money for somebody who's had an average season, really, in the grand scheme of things?
He's had two relegations under his belt now as well, which doesn't help his CV. But,
no, it doesn't. But then I think people will probably see the bigger picture and think, well, you stick him in a team that's creating chances and he will score you goals. But I don't know. I can't see him going anywhere other than London, to be honest, which kind of leaves West Ham. I can't see him going to Tottenham either. I think he'd end up being back up at Tottenham. So, or maybe China. But the thing with London, the reason I bring that up is because he's been quite vocal about the fact that there's a big Eastern European community in London, and he enjoys the life of London, and I think he's settled. So who knows? If the owners can convince him to stay, then it will definitely do no harm for their PR. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about the community as well, because it's something that you don't necessarily think about when he was up in Newcastle. Maybe that was half the reason for his discipline issues or whatever. But it's just food for thought. Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned about recruitment. In terms of managers, we've obviously had the luxury of managerial stability for the past few years, and we're all praying that this isn't Rafa's last game in charge. I believe you've had 3 managers this season. How much of an impact has that had in chopping and changing the manager?
I think part of the problem here again is the fact that the owners, we had this brand of football last season. It was total football, and this season Slavica Jokanovic wasn't willing to compromise on that, and we weren't good enough to be playing total football against some of the big sides. You go away to Man City, for example, and try and outpass them, you're going to get your backside handed to you. So Jokanovic lasted 11 or 12 games and he was booted out, and in came Ranieri. And his style of football is just a completely different style of football.
Well, it was a weird appointment, that, though. I think everyone raised their eyebrows when he was put in there. It was very strange.
You kind of look at it and think, well, he's won the Premier League. He must be able to organise this group of players, and he must be able to organise the defence, because we were shipping a lot of goals. It's 2 or 3 every week without fail. So he's come in and he never worked out his best team either. He'd be playing Tom Kearney out wide, and there'd be a lot of tinkering and a lot of messing around. And I like Ranieri, and I really hoped it would work out with him, but we just didn't have the players, and that's where the owners kind of failed there. I think they went for a name rather than somebody more practical who could help our situation. So eventually he was sacked, and he wasn't very popular by the end of it, just because of the run of results. Even though you can't really blame him for the predicament we were in. He was part of the problem, and then Parker came in.
He's done all right.
Yeah, he has, and I think he had to be given the job. He got the job full time yesterday, and I think he'd done enough, to be honest. We got a couple of wins under our belt, and he kind of galvanised the squad, and he kept saying that he wanted to reunite the supporters with the team, and go over and thank the fans at the end of games, and coming over and clapping, and it's little things like that really, which when you've travelled up north for a game, and you've just been spanked, and then the players just head straight off down the tunnel, you think, well, why am I bothering with this? So it's just a little thing like that. But the way we're playing, he's put Tom Kearney back in the middle, and Kearney's looked better. We've been creating more chances. We seem to be a little bit more stable at the back at the moment as well. And yeah, I think he deserves a shot next season. But any team that has 3 managers in a season, something's not quite right. And we did exactly the same in 2014 when we were relegated as well. We went through Martin Jol, Rennie Moulenstein, and Felix Magath as well. So
Felix Magath, the one with the cheese.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolute
yeah,
shambolic
amazing.
appointment that was. Yeah,
Yeah.
shambles.
Well, looking at it from the other side of things with Newcastle, obviously, I know you won't have watched Newcastle very much because you're not a Newcastle fan, but um, can you understand why Newcastle fans are so desperate to keep Rafa?
Oh God, yeah, he's a top manager. He won the Champions League. Um, if Rafa Benitez had been at our club in the same situation that you've had, where with a what's the best word to describe Mike Ashley, a volatile owner maybe, and to still churn out the results and keep you in mid-table, then yeah, absolutely. And I was listening to Five Live last week, and a lot of your supporters were calling in and saying that they hope he was going to stay. And it sounds like he might do. It sounds like he wants to stay if he can get what he wants from the owner. So fingers crossed for you. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he really wants to. I think he really wants to have that same love he had at Liverpool, where
yeah.
everyone just adores him and he's successful. But he just knows he's got this one problem at the top, and it's one person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he just wants to stick around long enough where he can actually make an impact. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll all love it. We'll all love him no matter what, and how we've managed to do what we've done. I don't think any other manager could have done it. Maybe a Guardiola or a Mourinho could have done it, but not. We're never going to get them in a million years, are we? So.
No, no.
Yeah, so hopefully, I think he said yesterday, which was Friday from when we're recording this, he said in 10 days' time we would know whether he's going to stay or not,
Mm.
and it's going to just be how many pounds he gets, isn't it? At the end of the day.
But so to throw it back at you then, if the worst was to happen and he didn't get what he wanted and he walked, who would you be interested in going for as a replacement? Who could possibly replace him?
It's him. I don't think anyone could replace him in terms of
Yeah.
his quality. And what you were saying about Parker and his attitude, Rafa's exactly the same. You always see him at charity events and
Mm.
hospital visits and things like that. He just gets it completely.
Good
So
PR, yeah.
I don't think he could ever be replaced in the same way. We would just need we because we're never going to get the investment in the players, so we just need another sort of tactical mastermind. But you're
Yeah.
not going to get them. They don't just rock up,
Few
do
and
they?
far between, aren't they? Yeah,
Yeah, the
absolutely.
only person I think of that ilk would be someone like Mourinho, which I say
Mm.
it sounds a bit strange, but he's got a bit of an affinity with Newcastle through the Bobby Robson connection. And
Oh, of course, yeah.
I've always said that I think he will want to become Newcastle manager one day.
Mm.
It might be 5, 10 years in the future, 20, 30 years in the future, but I do think that will happen. But we'll end up with someone like Alan Kirbishley or some guy who's been in the wilderness for forever. He'll be one
Yeah,
of Mike Ashley's Cockney Coroni sort of things.
you've been through some awful ones. I remember Joe Kinnear. Oh, that was
Oh God,
hilarious.
yeah, he tried to sign a player we already had.
Yeah, nightmare,
But
absolute nightmare.
yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully, it's not his last game. We'll see. In
Mm.
terms of the game, he'll set up the way he always does. It will be very solid. Everyone will know exactly where their position is. We've got our
Mm.
good front three, which is missing Almiron at the minute, but we'll probably just chuck Atsu straight in there. I think that if I recall correctly, I seem to believe the reverse fixture was. Did you win it 1-0?
No, it's 0-0. It
Nil
was our
nil.
first clean sheet of the season, right before Christmas.
Yeah, yeah,
Shocking.
that was that phase where we were just truly terrible at the start of the
Yeah.
season, and then Rafa just galvanizes the team and pick it up.
Mm.
If you had to kind of predict how the game would go, have you got an inkling? Or it's always hard at this stage of the season when no one's really playing for anything.
It is. We can't move from our position. We are second from bottom, and we can't move up a place or go down a place. So there's literally nothing to play for. And I think we'll probably see a couple of our youth team players brought off the bench before the end of the game as well. So I don't think we'll be too focused on the result, but I think we'll score, and I think I think it'll be a draw. Let's go for a draw. I'll say 2-2.
Or score draw. Well, it would be nice to have some goals because no doubt we're going to be watching this game wishing we were watching Liverpool or Man City.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. I think there might be goals in it as well. Defensively, we've not been as sound as we have been earlier in the season, but I don't know if that's just because we're now safe, so people have got their eye off the ball a bit. Might be a few players playing for new contracts. A lot of our midfield is kind of just going to be gutted at the end of the season, so we might see someone like Shelvey come in who opens the game up a little bit. So yeah, I'll go for a 1-1, just as kind of bog standard end to the season, I would say.
I think so. Yeah, I think it will just kind of flutter out, and then we can forget this season ever happened from our perspective and go again next year in the Championship.
Yeah, what's your thoughts for next year then? Do you think you've just got to kind of gut and restart, or?
No, I don't think we have got to gut and restart, to be honest. I'd like to keep a lot of the players, as many of the players as possible. I know that sounds shocking because we've been so dreadful. But there's just been a couple of shots in the arm recently. We've had a couple of wins, and you know, Sessegnon's always going to be linked with a move, as is Mitrovic, and Ryan Babel is out of contract because he only signed for 6 months. But imagine in the Championship a front three of Mitrovic, Sessegnon, and Ryan Babel. That would be absolutely amazing.
Unheard of,
and
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I very much doubt it will happen. But you know, you kind of look and think, wow, that would be amazing if we could do that. And we've got some good midfielders as well who have flattered to deceive at times this season. You know, Jean-Michel Seri and Andre Frank Zambo-Anguissa, two of the players that we signed from the French league last summer, and at times this season they've been poor, but more recently they've really stepped up. And you know, I think Seri will probably leave, but I think Anguissa might stay. And if you know, we've got the bare bones of a really good squad. I think at that level.
It's just filling the gaps in a bit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we can make a really good fist of it next season. But then, you know, if Mitrovic leaves, then it's all up in the air, because a team's nothing without somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net, and it's really slim pickings if he does go.
Yeah, I think you could say the same for Newcastle if we're looking ahead to next season a little bit with us. We've got sort of 5 or 6 really good players, but then because of the way the club's ran, we just have gaps all over the pitch. So, as I said, central midfield is going to just be completely gone next season. We should be trying to build our team around Almiron, Perez and Rondon, but we're probably not even going to fork out for Rondon. He's probably on the way out.
Is he?
Well, we're probably not going to buy him. We're not going to give the money over. I don't think.
Oh, is he only on loan? I didn't realise he was only on loan. I thought you'd signed him. What's he got, 12 goals or something this season?
Yeah, we should have signed him permanently in January, but we didn't. And then every game he scored a goal, his price goes up. So who knows?
That's right.
But it's exactly the same for us. If we keep Rafa, we'll be able to fill in a few blanks in the squad, and we'll end up mid-table again. But obviously, from our fans' point of view, we just know we could try harder, which is frustrating. But either way, I think it's hopefully going to be a positive season next season for both of us.
I hope so, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? You know, you have peaks and troughs as a football supporter. And we had a real high last season, winning in the playoff final against Aston Villa, and then this season we're on a low. But you know, you're never that far away from another good season, I think, and I hope so. Anyway, I'm sure you guys will be back as well, and at some point once you get your owner sorted out, and I mean he's still looking to sell the club, isn't he?
Well, he says he is, but he wants like 100 million more than it's worth. So we're basically relying on someone coming in and paying over the odds for it, which might happen. Who knows? I've never been confident he's actually trying to sell it, to be honest. He makes too much money from it. But we'll see.
Well, hopefully he won't be there forever anyway.
No, I hope not. Well, he's not immortal, so he'll be gone eventually. No, but
quite
we'll see. But either way, I wish you all the best for I was going to say the rest of the season, but the game on Sunday and then next season as well. Thanks very much for coming on, Matt.
Same to you, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Cheers.